that advance it? Yeah, I don't advance. That's fine. You do it that way too. I normally do like the keyboard, but it's whatever.
Then that's okay. Whatever you prefer.
Either.
Then I'll just leave this.
Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Bahag and I'm on the line.
Might have to speak into a microphone, so it's.
Vahagan, was that you?
Yeah, I was just saying that I'm on the line.
Okay, we got you.
Thank you.
Certain values of freedom.
I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the City of Urbana Human Rights Commission meeting, Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. Tom, can we get a roll call, please?
Shalini Smith.
Here.
Peter Resnick. Here. Vahagan Shiflikan.
Here.
Jerry Fry.
Here.
Charles Davidson.
Here.
Adam Ruggieri.
Present.
Ann Panthen.
Here, thank you. I assume everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda that Tom sent out last week. Are there any additions to the agenda? No? Introduction of new commissioner. Carla?
Well, I would like for everyone to give a warm welcome again to Adam Ruggieri, who joined our board last night, officially last night. He was appointed by the commission, by the council last night. Adam, is there anything you would like to say about yourself? Just an introduction?
I've lived in Urbana almost my entire life, and I consider it a privilege to be here. I look forward to serving alongside all of you, and if you see me doing anything that you feel you can advise on, please do so. I'm here to learn as much as to serve.
Thank you.
Thank you. Approval of minutes of the previous meeting, which was October 21st, 2025. Of course, we postponed the November meeting, so do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from October?
I'll put forth the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Public input, I don't see any. Unfinished business. This is a discussion that we have been starting and stopping now for several months, or maybe more. Discussion of the Human Rights Commission membership modification, and Darcy Sandifer, the city clerk, is here to sort of talk us through some of this.
Hello, thank you guys for having me. It is strange to sit on this side of the dais. First of all, I want to welcome Adam and also thank the entire HRC for your service. We could not do the stuff at the city without our boards and commissions, so thank you guys for your time. This evening, I'm going to give a very, very brief Open Meetings Act refresher because the point that I want to explain and make available to you guys for your consideration involves a portion of the Open Meetings Act. So I am not here to participate in your discussion. I am not here to tell you what to do. I am here to give you some background and access to resources and make ourselves available, and then I'm gonna leave. So just to clarify, so my name is Darcy Sandifer. I am your elected Urbana City Clerk. I previously served as the Deputy City Clerk. I am also currently serving as an officer on the executive board for the statewide Municipal Clerks of Illinois and also the Central Illinois Municipal Clerks. I am also the City of Urbana's Open Meetings Act designee. So what that means is if there is ever an Open Meetings Act violation, I am involved in that process. I am the bonded official. I am the one that goes to court. So I am here at your disposal. We'll go ahead and get started. So, 5 ILCS 120, that is the Illinois Compiled Statutes, is the Open Meetings Act. You can find that on ilga.gov under the legislation and laws. They recently redesigned the website. I have mixed feelings on the redesign. I don't necessarily think it's quite as user-friendly or accessible, but of course the laws have not changed tremendously and all of the content is still there, just organized slightly differently. So the Opens Meetings Act applies to most all government bodies, including all of our boards and commissions, our city council. It does not apply, however, to private businesses or homeowners associations, basically individuals who are not elected or appointed. The Open Meetings Act covers more than what I am going to go into with you guys today for the purposes of this meeting. As a reminder as well, all members of boards and commissions or members of public bodies bound by the Open Meetings Act are required to complete the online OMA training once per term within 90 days of the start of the term. And the certificate that it generates when you complete that has to be placed on file with the city clerk's office or with the mayor's office. That training can be found on the Illinois Attorney General's website. I will give you a heads up that historically they are slow in updating the training. By that, I mean there was a period of time where the training was completely inaccessible for greater than 6 months. So I haven't checked recently, but if that is an issue, just give me a heads up and I will keep an eye on it and let you know as soon as it becomes available again. It would not be the first time. Further, the Open Meetings Act provides some baseline requirements for how we conduct our business as government. So all agendas must be noticed no less than 48 hours ahead of the meeting, and it has to be continuously available. So that means that 24/7 for that 48 hours, a member of the public would be able to access that agenda and know at any time of day when the meeting was going to happen, where it's going to happen, and what is going to happen at that meeting. So the agenda doesn't have, of course, the entirety of your minutes included in it, but a member of the public who reads your agenda is reasonably informed about what business or what actions the body is going to conduct. Another factor of the OMA is it details quorum. A quorum must be physically present at all meetings of the public body, whether open or closed. My subsequent slides get more into quorum, so I'm going to pause on that one for now. And then any violations of the Open Meetings Act are enforced by the Public Access Commission. Generally speaking, the Public Access Commission provides information and educational opportunities to municipalities. They do also issue binding opinions in the event that they feel that more municipalities or meeting bodies could benefit from the information, or if it's an area that they feel is frequently violated, that there just needs to be some greater clarity for meeting bodies. Okay. So as I alluded to, quorum is a little bit more tricky, and this is the part that I think possibly pertains to some of the discussions that you've had, albeit I have not been present for your prior discussions, so I apologize. So quorum, as defined by the Open Meetings Act, is the minimum number of members of a public body who must be physically present at a meeting in order for it to be considered a meeting. So generally, this is half of the members plus one, although there is a caveat with that. That is the bare minimum requirement. Of course, individual bylaws or city codes can raise that threshold higher than the minimum required by law. But generally speaking, it's half of the members plus one. Majority of a quorum is separate. Majority of a quorum is the smallest number of people required to pass an item. So if, for example, because right below that is the quorum for HRC, 4 members is your bare minimum requirement to have a meeting. That is your bare minimum quorum because, of course, that is the lesser of the 2 provided options. So when you have 4 of you physically here, 3 of you have to vote affirmatively for an item to pass. So 3 is the majority of a quorum. 3 people cannot, from your board, discuss an item before it comes here because you have the power to approve something outside of a meeting then if you're working together. And that would be considered an illegal meeting because it wasn't an advertised, noticed, agended thing. I'm a visual person, so I made a little table for you guys to reference as well. And again, this just details the number of members of a public body, what that relates to in quorum, and then majority of a quorum, which again, that's like the voting one, and also the max number of people that can talk about business. Now, This does not mean that all of you can't come to my birthday party, but you can't talk about city business if you come to my birthday party. So you are welcome to be friends, you're welcome to socialize, you're welcome to gather. Just don't talk about city business unless it's an advertised agenda. So, lastly, and the main thing, since we've talked about quorum, and we saw your prior definition, quorum is not a static figure per state law. What that means is if vacancies occur on a board or commission or a city council, in order for business to continue conducting, quorum is meant to adjust based off of the members on the board. That being said, it is the opinion of the city attorney and myself that we never want to see a board fewer than 3 for quorum, just because that gets super weird with voting. And also, the state laws get a little bit vague after 3. It's not advised. CPRB is their language in regards to quorum is in alignment with the bare minimum requirement of state law, which is that a majority of the sitting members of CPRB shall constitute a quorum. Sitting is the key verbiage there because it indicates that if there is a vacancy, so CPRB is 7 members, they only have 6, quorum is going to be 1 more than half. So their quorum would go down to 4, which granted it was 4 before when it was 7, so that's probably a moot example. But basically, it allows them to continue to function regardless of vacant seats on their board, regardless of occupancy. So that is basically what I'm putting forward to you guys in comparison to the language that's included in HRCs. Yours specifies a minimum hard number of 4, which is, per state law, 1 more person required than the 3. So is that an issue? That's not up to me. Not at all. Lastly, I will just, plug the clerk's office. So we are here to help with anything. We are the keeper of the records for all city council meeting records. So we have the minutes, we have the ordinances, we have the resolutions. We work with all city departments at the city of Urbana. We notice all of the meetings and agendas. So even if I don't know the answer to your question, I probably know the person who does have the answer to your question. So I'm happy to help with wayfinding as well as general inquiries. I'm also the OMA designee, so of course any Open Meetings Act questions, I'm happy to help. I'm also the parliamentarian for the city council, so if you ever want to get super nerdy and into the mechanics of motions, please come talk to me. That's what I'm here for. I have business cards as well if you guys wanted those, but yeah, that's really all I've got, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have a question for Darcy?
I'll be the geek if you want.
I knew you would.
Hi, Darcy P. Resnick. So the question we wrestled with for a bit, that 4 that we've got in the ordinance, if we had a full slate, normally if it were a if it's half the members plus 1, it would be 5, but we're defined as 4. Is there anything in state law that doesn't allow us to have 4? It does, the ordinance doesn't conflict with state law in any way by having that lower number, right?
You are correct. Well, so let me issue that with a caveat. So if you have all 9 members seated, and the way this is written, I would say that it would be the majority of members. I would go with the 5 for your quorum if you had all 9 seats filled. Now, if you don't have all 9 seats filled, such as right now where you have 7 occupied seats, your quorum is 4. And it can never go lower than 4 based off of what your bylaws and city code state for quorum. So state law just requires that for this 9-person body, if you had sufficient vacancies, 3 is the lowest that you could go. You can always be more restrictive than state law. However, you do run the risk of not being able to meet if you don't meet the higher threshold that you set. But you guys have 7.
Right. So if we were to drop down to 6, or I guess if we were to drop down to 5, then we could conceivably have a quorum of 3, but that would be what it is. But our ordinance says, nope, no, it's the lesser of, so we would have a quorum of 3.
So state law would agree that yes, the lesser would be 3. It does say, though, the lesser of majority of members or any 4 members. I would advise cleaning the language up for the first half of that, personally.
And say instead,
So,
I mean, this is ordinance, not bylaw, so we can't change it, but, we've been talking about what we might recommend to the city council if we want to change it.
right. And again, this is if you guys, as a body, decide that that is something that you are interested in, you would ask council to consider. I provided the sample language from CPRB where it says a majority of the sitting members, because I feel like that is fairly straightforward. I don't disagree that the lesser of a majority of members effectively communicates very similar things, but
So, right, it's the sitting that is the clarification that might be nice, but
correct. Even just adding the word sitting to your existing language would make that abundantly clear.
And let me get back to, you said something about, but you would recommend 5 in the case that we were full. What do you mean by that? That you would think that it would be a good idea to change the ordinance to make it 5 because...
No, not that you necessarily need to change your ordinance, but if you have 9 and you're fully seated, the recommended quorum is 5, because 5 is 1 more than half for 9.
Right. But there's nothing preventing us from keeping 4. It's just generally accepted that 5 is a good idea, that keeping it 1 more.
Yes.
Okay. Part of the reason I think we have the 1 lower is because in cases where we have hearings, sometimes getting everybody to be at every session of every hearing can be a pain, and that would drop us out of quorum accidentally when we want to have some minimum number, and maybe less than that 5 recommended. So,
Yeah.
But either way, if we were up to a full panel, we wouldn't have to have 5. We could stick with 4.
Yes, you could stick with 4 based off of how it's currently written, is my understanding. And more so what I was expressing is that if you added of seated members, you could go down to 3 in the
Right.
event that your board shrank to 5 members or less.
Right. Got it. Thanks.
So, yeah.
And all of this is connected to people physically present.
Correct. So after the gubernatorial emergency orders expired after the COVID-19 pandemic, we resumed the OMA requirement that a quorum must be physically established at the meeting body before any member may participate remotely. Members participating remotely have full voting rights. They have full participation rights. However, they do not count towards establishing your quorum to have a legal meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank
Very
you,
helpful.
guys.
Are we going to be able to have your slides?
Yes, Tom has a copy of them already. I do also have expanded notes beyond that because I very much like to talk rather than read off of a slide. So if you want more of like what I actually said, I can also provide that to Tom too.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
Yep.
So I guess we should probably talk about changing the ordinance, getting that process going where we change the ordinance. Pete?
So personally, I don't think the ordinance should be changed, at least in terms of the number. Having the clarification about sitting members might be useful. But as far as the number goes, there were a couple of things going on. One was, if we did get a full 9, would we have a problem? because then getting the number of people here, we'd need 5. Given that our ordinance says 4, filling up would
Well,
not
yeah.
be a big deal.
That is
So,
true.
The reason I think having the 4, even if we're a full panel, is a good idea, other than that, is this case where we have trouble meeting quorum for a hearing that goes on for multiple sessions.
Right, right.
Hasn't happened in a long time. We haven't had a hearing in quite a while. But when it does happen, it can be a pain to get everybody scheduled with potentially lawyers and other folks showing up.
Right.
So having it a little smaller than normal is probably a good idea. And then the question is, since it's now the lesser of a majority, it means if we get really small for some awful reason, let's hope not, we could go down to 3. Not great, not ideal to be in that position, but that's a reasonable possibility. If the city council, we've been acting as if it is sitting members, not, of 9.
Right.
Given that, and given that we've never gotten down to 5, I don't think, have we gotten down to 5?
Yeah,
I believe we
For a
got-
short moment?
For a short period of time, we were down to 5.
I don't know that it's worth tossing it to the city council, having them decide, oh, we should go up to 5, which I don't think would be a great idea, just to change the sitting aspect of it.
And then, yeah, so that would be the only change that would be.
That would be the only change that I would be okay, voting to recommend, and I don't know that it's worth opening up for that. Just my opinion.
And we are already operating in that manner. We're already thinking of it in that manner, so those are good points. Thank you, Pete. So in that case, does anyone else have any comments, ideas about this? No? So it seems as though we won't need any sort of vote or anything like that, because we are just going to stay the same way that we are. Does that seem reasonable? All right. All right, thank you. New business, presentation by Shalini Smith about the conference she went to a couple of months ago in Anchorage, Alaska. It's like a travelogue.
I hope there are pictures.
All right, so this is my summary of the IORA conference that I went to in Alaska in October. But first, some fun Alaska facts. Actually, 2 of these were shared at the conference, so I felt it'd be fun to share these here. Also, Pete, here's an image for you. This is from the Flat Top Mountain Trail. Alaska is the state furthest north, west, and east. For those of you wondering how it's the furthest, for all of those, part of the Aleutian Islands extend past the 180-degree meridian. According to, I think it's the State of Alaska's website, where you can see how many of your state would fit into the state of Alaska, you can fit 11 of the state of Illinois inside of Alaska. And it also has more coastline than the rest of the states combined. All right, so one of the sessions I went to was called No Section 8, the Impact of Housing Choice Voucher Discrimination. It was focused on the housing choice voucher system in Chicago. Housing choice vouchers are used by families that make less than 50% of the median income in a particular area. From HUD's documentation, for a family of 4 to be eligible in Cook County, their annual income would need to be less than $59,950. According to the speaker of the session, the majority of their housing discrimination complaints were those that involved housing choice vouchers. While the presentation was based on housing choice voucher discrimination in regard to Chicago, multiple participants in the session mentioned that they had seen similar trends. And this was interesting because the state of Illinois prohibits housing discrimination on the basis of income. And then remember that the city of Urbana also has its own ordinance that prohibits housing discrimination on the basis of income. Another session I went to was called Intersectionality and Discrimination Law Compliance. This session touched upon the ways that various identities and protected classes can play a unique role in the way people face discrimination. Most of the information was aimed towards investigators in various human rights departments. However, I did find some interesting takeaways. Other cities and states have a plethora of additional protected classes beyond those at the federal level. And these include some fun things such as height, weight, and your status as a building inspection complainant. One of the representatives mentioned that their area had 40 protected classes. One of the fun things that we did at the conference was we took various cultural tours. We visited several spots of historical and/or cultural importance. These include Ship Creek, Anchorage Museum, where we saw the history of Alaska and various works of art, Earthquake Park, the Alaska Native Heritage Center, so we could learn about the history of the indigenous people of Alaska, and the Mountain View Community Council, where we learned the importance of community from area residents. And more pictures are coming up on the next slide. So the picture on the left is Earthquake Park, and then the two on the right are figures that were in the museum. Yes.
Did they tell you why it was called Earthquake Park?
So if you see the little cracks there, that was from earthquake activity previously. Like you could actually see where the land had split.
I was wondering if that was the case.
No problem. Okay. The Midwest Regional Meeting. So representatives from several Midwest cities met and gave reports of what their human rights organizations had done since the last conference. Aside from myself and a representative from the city of Champaign, there were also other cities that were represented, such as Chicago, Fort Wayne and Evansville, Indiana, a representative from Omaha, Nebraska, and representatives from both Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota. And then here's the obligatory photo they made us all take. All right, the conclusion that I came up with was the theme of strength and unity was well represented throughout the conference. With each session, I learned about the ways human rights organizations are continuing to fight for their communities despite lack of funding, staff, and the current political landscape. Overall, it was a highly educational and enjoyable experience. Yes?
I really wanted to go to this conference, but I couldn't go. I know that Tim Wise was one of the keynote speakers.
Yes, he was.
What was your impression of him, and anything remarkable that he may have mentioned that, caught your attention?
Well, he was definitely very fired up about a lot of things that I probably won't mention here, but no, definitely very outspoken about, the state of things in the world. And, it's an ongoing fight, but I would definitely welcome the chance to see him speak again in person.
Who is he?
Oof, well, that is a good question.
Is he like a government person? I don't know the name.
He's not a government person, and I don't know. I don't know. He's an activist. Yeah. There you go.
He has a Wikipedia page.
There he
He
is.
does have a Wikipedia page. I got to see him when I worked at the college, and I took a group of students to Eastern. It was when he was first starting out, and he was just very in your face about race relations and the state of race relations. And speaking as a white person, he would say things like, "We need to own our stuff," but he'd say it a little bit more stronger. And so the students that I took were enthralled with him. And so I was curious and it was like 20 years later, then he went to my daughter's college, and she heard him, and she's like, Mom, you got to hear this guy. And then she told me who it was. I'm like, I did. And so I was very pleased to see that Shalini would be able to have an opportunity to hear him speak. You may not agree with everything that he says, but it makes you think, I would say. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. Again, very impassioned speaker. There was at least one person who did not agree with what he was talking about, got up and stormed out. But the rest of us definitely very enthralled. I think the way I remember it, the man got a standing ovation when he was done. So.
Yeah. Any other questions for Shalini and her great adventure? No. Thank you, Shalini. All right. We have the receipt of the automatic 2-year EEO certifications, which we'll need an announcement of.
And now I get to read stuff sitting back over here again. Okay, so the companies eligible for automatic EEO certification or recertification are Warehouse Direct Incorporated and Luava Incorporated.
Thank you. So those will be just accepted. We accept.
I would just ask that we share with Adam why those are automatics.
Oh, yes. So if a company is it 20 and under? So it's 20 and under. If they have 20 and under employees, we don't require them to go through our whole authorization process. We still get all the information, and we still have the ability to ask questions of their companies if we find things that don't seem to be quite right. But it just saves a little time. So they're very small companies.
Oh, sure. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. Shalini, did you have another thing to say about that?
I thought it was 19. 19 and under.
No.
Because the top of the form for the EEO certification and recertification says 20 or more.
And I think I was just corrected on that.
Because, based on EEO, certain more restrictions and protections come into play after 20, at 21.
Oh, okay,
And
got
so
it.
20 and below, there are less requirements, and so we wanted to be in alignment with EEO, and so that's why we voted to have it at 20 and below.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we will move on to the EEO workforce statistics.
Okay, so I will pass a motion to approve the following companies. Berkey's Farm Store for 1 year. BLD Services LLC for 2 years. Cannon Cochran Management Services Incorporated, doing business as CCMSI for 2 years. Electronic Data Collection Corporation for 2 years. Healthcare Service Corporation, doing business as Blue Cross Blue Shield for 2 years. Midwest Engineering and Testing Incorporated for 1 year. RH Wine, doing business as Insurance Program Managers Group, LLC for 2 years. Stark Excavating Incorporated for 2 years. Trees Are Us for 2 years. Twin Lakes Fire Service for 1 year, and Vogler Motor Company for 1 year.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have some questions/comments.
Okay.
What will Berkey's Farm Store be doing specifically for the city of Urbana? Do we know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're an ag store.
At this point, I'm only aware that they are probably going to be selling equipment to the city. I don't know what type of equipment, however.
Okay. I just, when I looked at, I'm familiar with Berkey's farm store. And when I look at that and they're 100% white, and I see we're approving them for 1 year. Ooh. How do we go about addressing meeting certain standards going forward for further implementation, further approval, renewal of their services? I mean, there have to be other people that can supply these kind of things that they do that might be more diversified, shall I say?
I
Just
think,
commentary.
yeah, I think that perhaps is why there's a 1-year recommendation.
Yeah, for sure.
And then a good faith effort, so we send a letter with some suggestions. You know, no one is required to take our suggestions, but obviously, if you want to do business with the city, you open the letter that we send and you take a look at it, and hopefully,
I'm still new enough to this committee to not understand exactly what happens after 1 year or moving on down the road, shall we say. Same would be true with Vogler Motor Company out of Carbondale, Illinois, 97.9% white. And I get it. Carbondale's probably 97.89% white as a community. I don't know that for certain, but
I think that's in there somewhere.
Yeah, that information is on that page,
Yeah,
well, they're 24%
and
black, 7% Hispanic. Yeah, so
yeah.
just trying to understand what happens after the 1 year approval is rubber stamped.
well, did you want to? All right. They're not rubber stamped.
Okay.
Because you guys have the options of 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years. Both of these that you mentioned are new applicants, and so we give the 1 year so that we can get a look back, or that you guys can have a look back after that 1 year, because then they're required to provide a good faith effort plan of how are you going to increase your your workforce diversity. Now, they can't promise that they're going to do it, but we want to at least see that they're making an effort in outreach, in recruitment. And so those are some of the things that are suggested to them. Have you tried this? And then we ask them can they document that? Provide us information of how they did that. Did they put it in a publication that, the audience is a diverse audience? And how did that go? Did you have any response? Those kinds of things. We can't make any of the businesses hire anyone, but what we do want to see is, are you at least making an effort? And we could, you could suggest that, perhaps, is this a sole source, and make those questions. Is this a sole source vendor? If it's not, have we looked at others?
That was my point in regards to Berkey's, for example. Vogler's another, the automotive dealership, there are a lot of automotive dealerships a lot closer than Carbondale, Illinois, for example. Twin Lakes Fire Service, 97.62%. Right here in Urbana, I don't know if anyone else does fire sprinkler protection services. I mean, I didn't research if other people do these kinds of things, but.
Some of them are
it just-
sole source or either specialized, especially when we look at the fire services and equipments. That's usually probably one organization that's within
Yeah.
maybe 100, 200 miles of us, and for them able to do that.
They just kind of jumped out at me.
But those are questions that you could submit prior to the meeting for us to follow up on and to ask those questions.
So first, by way of answering a couple of Jerry's questions, because this part of the ordinance is a weird little part. It's sort of not, it's not in Chapter 12. It's off in another part. There, I forget what the reference is. Yeah, Chapter 2 somewhere. So here's the issue. You know, we have tried by this procedure to give folks a chance to say, okay, show us you're trying at least. The problem is that the ordinance, this part of the ordinance that we're acting under, has one and only one lever. And it's a big, heavy weight, which is if we decide that they have not made a good faith effort, that they have not actually properly tried to diversify the workforce, what we can do is say, okay, they do not comply with the ordinance, and therefore they are in breach of contract with the city of Urbana. We can declare their contract in breach, at which point legal would instantly get involved and have to deal with the fact that they've got an out-of-compliance contract. That's the lever we can pull if we really want to say, you guys aren't doing this. We have yet in the history of the commission that I've been on to pull that lever. I don't know before my time whether it's ever been pulled, but it's certainly not been pulled while I've been on the commission, which is a lot of years now. For something like Berkey's, and I've got a question about this, but for someone like Vogler, let's say, the numbers aren't good for Carbondale. We've got, you know, Tom and Carla put together these forms so we can at least see where they are in the country and what they're dealing with. But given that they're a new contractor, for whatever reason they're planning on bidding or something like that, I think it's always reasonable for us to say, hey, your numbers don't look good given where you are. We have Carla send the letter and say, show us some good faith effort so that next year, if you want to continue contracting with the city, we see some effort. For repeat customers, I think we need to be a little more heavy-handed with them. If they're not improving and haven't given us a good explanation, I think we want to go back to them and say, before we touch this, we want to hear some more from you about this. So the question I had about Berkey's is, that name sounds familiar to me. Is it?
It was something that had been previously approved. I think it was maybe 2009.
And then they just didn't contract for a while.
Contract. And so when I saw it come through and was able to review how long ago it was, we have said we're going to start fresh. Now, if for some reason somebody sees a name in their application that says, well, they've been there the whole time, they've done this before, they should have known by now.
Right.
Then we would react to your reaction. The other thing to mention, I think, for Jerry is on our sheet when we were talking about when was the last time that one of these companies had come through, when we say new if they were brand new, we say new if it's been so many years. But on this particular list, the Twin Lakes Fire Service, two things to point out. This is the only one this particular month that did have a 1 year with a requirement to do a good faith efforts report. So that is in the documentation that you received, their letter that they wrote. And the other thing to mention about them is that they are unionized, and so that sometimes has had a significant factor in their abilities, and so are their compliance and our response. And so then we ask them to at least show that they're working with the union to say, here's what we want to see happen with the union. And during the time that Carla and I have been working on this, we've continually taken the suggestions from this group to strengthen the letters, to frequently reach out when we see something that we know you'd be asking about, so that we can have some more details in what we present to you when we send out the email. And so we're already seeing responses to the letter when they first get their certificate, and then we're seeing some additional responses when they send in their new reapplication to say, nice, we can say nice job, or they're gonna wanna know a little more detail here. And then sometimes we let it sit there because we want your reaction in the first place.
I also wanted to point out, on the data sheets, that we've pulled out the available workforce based on, because I know we say that, you know, there's 47% white and 17%, but that is all of the population. That's including those that are 75 and over, and also 14 and under. And so if you look on the sheet where it says available workforce, that's the number where all of those people are taken out. And then the employment rate, that percentage is taken out also. So what's actually available, these are people theoretically aren't working that are available for work. And so that number goes down drastically over the whole city. So it's 14,000 for the whole city. And so I'm just mindful of every employer is looking for workers, and that's the available workforce.
Yeah. Adam, did you have a question or a comment?
No, he answered it just by talking, so I think good.
He does that a lot. I mean,
I'll just say
answers.
one more thing. I think the message that I'm getting is I need to look at this earlier than today, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe.
that'd be good. It's a lot to look at, so,
So, yeah, and honestly, I've not truly, fully understood all of the ramifications of the work that you do. So, that's on me. So,
And I will say that I was exactly in the same position as you this month. Today was the first time I got to it. And that's why Tom tries to send them out a couple of weeks early so that we have a chance to go, whoa, we need a better letter than the one they sent in, or something like that. And there were one or two this month where I hang my head in shame and go, okay, I'm going to swallow on, we're going to give them another year, but perhaps give them a little warning in the year letter that we send that this is one of the really problematic ones. Because I think Twin Lakes Fire Service was one of the ones, and Midwest, what was the name of it?
engineering?
Midwest Engineering. These were two renewals, and they really did not improve. And had I read them 2 weeks earlier, I would have dropped Tom and Carla a note and said, they need to provide a little more information than they did, because they were very hand-wavy in their explanations. So maybe this time, with our one-year approval, assuming it goes through and everybody votes for it, we send them a little more strongly worded letter and say, we're going to give you another year, but expect that next year you're going to have to provide a little more explanation of the things that you've done. Those were the two that really stood out to me. Berkey's, and I think we may want to revisit this when we have a little more time, maybe for those who have sort of expired and become new again, we want to at least take a peek back and see, were they really in exactly the same spot and they should have known better? And put a flag on those, that they're not completely new. They're repeat customers, but they just do it long time in between.
And of course, the further you go back, the less likely the record is going to be tangible.
Right.
But I would say probably going back to a couple of years before the pandemic, we're pretty good with a lot of records.
Okay.
One final comment. For the new companies, and I don't know if this is actually the case for them, but let's leave Berkey's out of it since they're not new. Vogler and Trees R Us, submitting an application to be a contractor with a municipal government is new to some small companies. And it's a lot of paperwork. It's things that they may not have come across before if they don't do this regularly with, municipal or state governments. And I think that we should at least give them a year, give them the nice letter with the ideas, how they could, provide better information and how they could do better in their recruitment or whatever we think the issue is. And then if they do those things, then that's all good. But year one for sort of a semi-small company probably is, they're probably like, oh my God, it's paperwork central. And it is, sort of. So, all right, any other comments? Nope. All right. So, all in favor of approving the EEO workforce statistics companies as outlined in Carla's suggestions, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you all. All right. The officers' report. Carla?
Currently, for formal complaints, there are 2 open complaints. Both are for employment with a basis of race. Waiting on the initial response for the first one. They contacted me, their due date was yesterday, and they contacted me and asked for a 1-week extension, so I should have that next week. And the second one has just been signed by the complainant, and it will go out in the mail. And I have 7 days to get that in the mail. There is one complaint for the informal contacts. There was one complaint about a building property maintenance issue submitted as a 1222G complaint. Chair Panthen has begun the initial inquiry and could provide or will provide an update on that. Second one, the caller needed specific information about the Office of Human Rights and Equity so that someone from Aging Services could contact us. Currently, no one from Aging Services has reached out. Third caller called about an issue with their landlord about heating their apartment, provided the caller with the 12.5 landlord-tenant relationships ordinance and referred them to the tenants union. For office activity, I attended the NAACP Freedom Fund event on Saturday, October 25th, along with staff and members of the Urbana Police Department. Chief Boone received special recognition for his commitment and tireless work with community engagement and the depth of experience he has brought to the city of Urbana. I completed an International Municipal City County Associations, affectionately known as ICMA, webinar. It was data justice webinar entitled Beyond the Numbers, How Governments Can Use Data for Effective Policy Making. And the webinar explained how data justice can reshape policy making in a community and how integrating citizen-generated data, lived experience, and local knowledge can strengthen evidence-based decisions, building public trust and ensuring policies reflect the needs of all residents. It offered practical approaches for making the use of data more inclusive, transparent, and meaningful. The HREO, me, volunteered for the UPD volunteer opportunity, the Salvation Army Battle of the Badge, next Monday, December 15. The event goes from 10 to 6 p.m., and I volunteered for the 10 to noon shift. I'll be ringing the bells with, for the red pails at the Urbana Walmart. And I would like to formally invite everyone to the MLK celebration event on Sunday, January 18, 2026 at 5 p.m. at the Krannert Center of Performing Arts in Follinger Hall, and this is a free event. And we have moments in human rights history. 1897, French activist Marguerite Durand founds the feminist daily newspaper La Fronde, I guess, in Paris. The newspaper, run exclusively by women, advocated for women's rights. 1965, baseball's Branch Rickey died at the age of 83. He helped break Major League Baseball's color barrier by signing Jackie Robinson to the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. Rickey also introduced the batting helmet in baseball. 1978, the first game of the Women's Professional Basketball League, or WBL, takes place in Milwaukee when the Chicago Hustle defeats the Milwaukee Does, 92-87. The first game of the modern WNBA would take place in 1997. In 1990, Lech Walesa wins a landslide election victory in Poland. He received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1983 for his leadership of that country's solidarity movement, which worked for the right to form trade unions and for greater freedom of religious and political expression. Walesa went on to be the first person directly elected president of Poland. 1998, for the first time, the UN General Assembly declares in a resolution that anti-Semitism is a form of racism. The resolution, developed to reflect the views of member nations from around the world, also warned 27 years ago against new avenues for disseminating the repugnant views of racist organizations and asked governments to monitor modern communications for misuse. 2017, Australia becomes the 26th country to legalize same-sex marriage. As of today, there are now 38 nations that have legalized same-sex marriage, with Thailand having done so earlier this year. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Carla. Good. 1 second here. Okay. Announcements. This commission has 2 openings, so thank you, Adam. It's been 3 or 4, so we appreciate you. The next scheduled meeting is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. This is 1 week earlier than the normal week, and I don't really remember why.
That is due to MLK the next week, which bumps city council to Tuesday that week.
So they would be in this room.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for reminding me. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.